Good morning, all. So today we will see the simple example of the combinational circuits and sequential circuits using the VHDL. Okay, so we will see with the help of the tool how to write a code for one combinational circuit and one sequential circuit. Okay, so I will show you, and I will show it simulation also. So in a previous lecture we have seen a one bit comparator. So same one bit comparator we will implement in a VHDL and we will simulate it. Okay, if there is a time I will show you its implementation on the PLD also. So once we complete this, then we have completed the first unit of our VLSI, and from next lecture then we will start with the second unit. Okay, so just you can make a practice of these also. You can install the Xilinx. For that you need a Xilinx software. So we are writing the comparator. So I am giving the name as a comparator to my project. Next, now Spartan 3, same specifications are there which are recently set in the previous practical. So we will keep it as it is. Next, see, these are important if you are going to download it into a PLD. Okay, next, finish. See, at any time, if I left from the meeting or anything, any network issue occurs, just let me know, or someone just call me. Okay. Then right click on this left hand side file, click on new source. So we create a project, then we create a source file, and we add that source file into our project. Okay. So what is the what kind of source file we are writing? We are writing the VHDL module. So there are different. We can write a library, we can write a package, we can write a test bench. So various design entries are there, which source types are there that you can select to add into your project. Okay, so we are writing a simple VHDL module. So here I'm giving a name com underscore one bit. So that is the name of my one bit comparator. Fine. Next, now here for comparator, yesterday we have seen there are two inputs, one is A and second is B. So these are the two one bit numbers only. If you have to increase it at a 2-bit comparator, 3-bit comparator, then you have to increase its size of these inputs. So A will be of a 2-bit, B will be of a 2-bit if it is a 2-bit comparator. So for that you need to tick on this bus signal so that there will be a vector created. Similarly, the output of the comparator, we have a three output. One is A less than B, ALTB I have written. Second input is A EQB, A equal to B. And third input is A GTB, that is A greater than B. So these three outputs are there. So depending upon your signal, depending upon your input signal or the relation between the inputs, the respective output signal will be high. So at any time, only one of the signal out of three will be high. Okay. So that is your output. Now here entity name is comp underscore one bit that I have given in the previous window. Architecture name is by default behavioral. This is a user defined name. You can change, you can give any name here. Suppose I'm writing a data flow. Okay, data flow means where we will just write the Boolean expressions. Next, finish. So this code will be generated. The library statements are added. Then entity is added with its perfect syntax. Okay. Then the template of the architecture syntax is shown. We have to just write our functionality in between this begin and the end structure. Okay, end the data flow statement. Now if I'm going to write the data flow, then what is important for data flow modeling style? In the previous session we have seen how to represent the Boolean expressions for a comparator. Okay, so for that, based on the values of A and B, we have seen, suppose A less than B, what is A less than B, A greater than B, and A equal to B. So it is based from the truth table we have written and A greater than B. So these are the GTB. Three inputs, three outputs. Now this you have to write down in terms of the A and B. So in the first, for A, B, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. For these two, these four combination, your first input ALTB, okay, less than. So LTB will be A less than B. Here it is not, it is 0. Here A less than B is 1. Here A is greater than B, and here A is equal to B. So what is this equation? It is A bar B, right? So this is A bar B. What is A equal to B? When A equal to B will be equal to 1. So this will be for 1 and this will be for 1. For rest of the things it will be 0. So it is simply A XNOR B. A XNOR B, A plus B, that is with circle and the bar. Okay. And what about the A greater than B? GT greater than, this is 0, this is 0. Now here A is greater than B, so this will be 1, and this is equal to B, 0. So this is A B bar, right? A B bar. So these equations we have to simply write into the our architecture. Okay. So all these three concurrent statement you can write for ALTB equal to, not only equal to, less than or equal to, then AEB, AQB equal to, and A greater than B equal to. So here we have to write down those equations. So ALTB is A bar B. Okay. A bar B. How will you write this? Not of A and B, right? See, you can write either in a small letters or the capital letters. Both are fine. Then A XNOR B. XNOR it is there. So A XNOR B. Fine. And the third one is A and not of B. Fine. So these are the three equations that we have to write, or the three concurrent statements you can write for this comparator, one bit comparator. Okay. So we will see its synthesis and the schematic view, how the this code will be synthesized into a get level netlist. So view RTL schematic, you can double click on it. Okay. Now this you can observe the hardware that will be generated after writing this particular code. Okay. So A and B are the inputs and three outputs are there for the comparator. It is a 1-bit comparator. If you just double click on it, inside this you will find the get level design. Again, you can double click on it. So here, this is the internal structure of your 1-bit comparator. Okay, if you draw its logic diagram, it will look similar to this. Fine. So this is the only schematic or the hardware generated that we have seen. Fine. If you have to see its simulation, okay, if you have to see its simulation, then there is a, on the left hand side here, by default on the implementation tab is selected. Now you can click on this simulation tab. Okay, select your file and just on this below window, processes window, click on the simulate behavioral model. Now that process is running. Now you can observe this waveforms. Right now all are the straight lines you can see. Now here you can change the values to A and B, and then we will just run it for a single step. So right now, suppose I give these values as a initially 0. Okay, 0, apply. Okay, and B as a also 0. So you have to right click on it, force constant. So we are forcing the values to 0, 0. So right now I have given the value A and B to 0, 0. Fine. So here you can run it. See, A0, B0, on this now green lines appear on the black window. First line is of A, second line is of B, and third line is of A less than B, fourth line is of A equal to B. So you can see that A equal to B line is a 1, and a greater than b is a 0. So for 0 0 input, your a equal to b is 1. Fine. Now I'm changing b as a 1. Okay, you can check force constant, change the value to 1, apply. Okay, again I will run it. Now you can see 0 1. So what you can observe, the same thing. Yes. Now you can see initially our A and B was 0 0. So for that A equal to B was high. The next I have made B as a 1. So second signal B as a 1. So you can see at that time A less than B is 1. Fine. Now I am changing B to 0. Okay. Force constant. B to 0 and A to 1. A to 1. Now your A greater than B should be 1. Fine. See, now this third range has appeared where A is 1, B is 0 and A greater than B is 1. So last three lines you can see simultaneously both are 1 for each of the combination, and the last combination is 1 1, right? For 1 1 again you can see apply. Okay, again run it. See, for 1 1 A equal to B is again 1. So this is the way with which you can verify your design using this test bench waveform. Okay, so this is, we are simulating it with the help of simply a software itself. But if you have to download it into a PLD, then what you need to do, you have to assign the package pins, right? And then you can observe the output on your PLD. So like yesterday, you will assign the pins for A, B, and you will assign the LED pin numbers to the three outputs. And once you download it into a PLD, then you can change the switches, and simultaneously you can change the uh, you can monitor the its respective output for the different combination of the input. Okay, so this is the simple example I have shown you for a 1-bit comparator, uh, 1-bit comparator using a data flow modeling style. If you have to change the modeling style, if you have to take it behavioral, then simply you need to write a process statement, and inside that process you will add the if else or the case statement. Fine. So this is one of the example of the combinational circuit. Now I will show you the example of the sequential circuit also. Okay. So for the sequential circuit, we will take a simple example of the D flip flop. Okay, which is the basic memory element. So for this flip flop, D stands for delay, right? So I'm drawing a symbol of the flip flop. Fine, D flip flop. So we know in order to design the or write a code, we must understand what are the different inputs and outputs available for that particular design and how it is going to work. Okay. So for the D flip flop, we will always have one D input, right? We will have a one clock input. So that clock is nothing but simply a square wave signal, right? Having a certain frequency with which that particular flip flop changes its output. Similarly, we can have the Q. Q is nothing but the output of your flip flop. Also, we can have always a complementary signal present, that is the Q bar. In addition to this, if we have a reset signal, so if you activate the reset, your Q will be 0 irrespective of either clock or the input. Okay, so suppose I am adding one more input, that is the reset. Okay, RST, reset. Similarly, we can also have a preset. Reset is also called as a clear. Fine. So these inputs we are considering, inputs and outputs we are considering. So how the D flip flop works, that we must understand. For D flip flop, suppose clock is present. Now that depends upon, see, listen it carefully, because we can understand the meaning of the two things. One is a synchronous input and the second one is the asynchronous input. Okay, so I am listing down all the signals so that we will complete the truth table to understand the working of this flip flop. Okay, clock signal is there, reset is there, then D input is there, Q is there, which is output, and Q bar, which is simply a complementary signal. Fine. Now we will see the working of this flip-flop with the help of this truth table only. Okay. Now, first thing, if it is a synchronous reset. Okay. First case, if our reset input is synchronous. Synchronous means what? Synchronous reset means if it will be activated in the presence of a clock only. Asynchronous means it can be activated at any time. It will not check whether the clock is present or not. Whether the clock is present or not. So initially we will see the synchronous reset. So reset also depends upon the clock signal. So clock will have the highest priority. So if clock is not present, okay, so if clock is not present, okay, so in that case, if there is no any clock, so whatever is the value of the reset or D, your output, there will be a no change in your output. Okay, it will remain as it is. There will be no change. So if it was 0, it will remain 0. If it was 1, it will remain 1 as it is. Okay. But if clock is present, okay, if clock is present and you have activated a reset, so let's say our reset signal is active high signal. Active high means it will perform the clearing operation whenever its input is 1. Fine. Then if reset is 1 means reset is activated, then irrespective of the D input, your Q will be 0. Okay, if Q 0, Q bar will be 1. Fine. If clock is present and reset is 0, means reset is now deactivated. Then if D is 0, Q will be 0. If Q 0, Q bar is 1. If clock is present, reset is not activated. If D is 1, Q is 1 because it is simply a delay input, right? So whatever the D input is present, that will be shifted as it is to the output in the presence of the clock. So that can be the clock age. So I have shown here a positive age or the rising age. So this is the truth table of working of the D flip-flop with a synchronous reset. But if it is a asynchronous reset, then here for the second line, you can check. We have seen the presence of the clock. So if clock is not present, so clock is 0, we can say, then only it will activate. Okay, so clock is 0 and reset is 1, so same thing you will get here. So it reset input does not depends upon your clock signal, so we can call it as a asynchronous reset. And the moment at which you have applied a reset signal, at the same moment your Q output will be 0. For other cases, your output changes only at a constant ages of your clock signal. It can be either positive age or the negative age. Okay. So what we have to do, we have to write its VHDL code now. Fine. We have seen the writing the code for the combinational circuit like multiplexer, half adder, full adder, comparator. Now we will start with the simple example of the sequential circuit or the basic element of the sequential circuit, that is the flip-flop. Fine. So by taking the reference of this, we will write a code. So we will click a new project. The name I am giving a DFF. Next, I will not show it on the get finish. Now click on the right click on this project file name, click on new source, VHDL module, then D flip-flop. This is the name I am giving to my entity. Okay. Now behavioral name of the architecture, we will keep a behavioral only. So D is a 1 input, right? So this is a 1 bit, simple. Then second input is the reset RST. Then third input is a clock. Now here clock is a square wave, so you can also add that in the same diagram itself. Then output is the Q and the Q bar. Q bar we will not take, Q as a out. Fine. Next, finish. So you can see the same thing is created. Entity we have got ready-made with a D, reset, clock, and the Q as output. Now we have to write down the functionality of this D flip-flop. Okay, now we are going to write a behavioral modeling code. Behavioral modeling, why? Because this is a sequential circuits. So simply we will write down how it behaves with the help of that function table we have written in the previous slides. Fine. So how it is going to work? So for that, with a synchronous reset, we are considering the highest priority will be given to a clock signal. So how to write? If it is a sequential statements we have to write, then we always need to write a process statement. Okay. So process in bracket, we mention the sensitivity list. Means when for change in the signal, the process starts its execution. So the highest priority is for our clock signal. Means if clock changes, then and then only your process should start execution. Here, if D changes, then there also it will not be useful because we are writing a synchronous reset code. Okay, so I will simply write only one signal in the sensitivity list. If it changes, means if changes from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, the process will start execution. But if we have designed it for positive age triggered, then simply you have to detect that positive age. Okay, if you have to you have designed it for the negative age trigger, then simply you have to check whether there is a negative age present or not. Fine. So how to check it? After this process, we need a begin. So this begin is different and this begin is different. Okay, this is the begin of your process. Now in this we have to check. Now yesterday we have seen we can use the attributes to uh, check whether any event occurred on the clock signal or not. Okay, so if clock tick event and positive age detection means clock, what will be the status of your clock signal? It will be changed to 1. Fine. Then so here we are checking whether positive age of the clock is present or not. If positive age is present, then what we can see, what we can say, if positive age is present, then we will check if reset is activated or not. Okay, so if reset equal to 1 means it is in activated state, then if reset is activated, then what will be your Q? What will be your Q? Your Q will be equal to 0, right? Your Q will be equal to 0. Else means if reset is not activated, then what will be Q? Your Q will be equal to whatever is the value of a D. If D is 0, Q will be 0. If D is 1, Q will be 1. So this is the way with which you can write your code. Now here there will be end if for this if statement, the first reset if. Okay, and second end if we will be required, which is for the clock if. Okay, end if, then in the same way you have to end the process also, end process, semicolon, and lastly there will be the end of the architecture statement in behavioral. So this is the code that we have written using a sequential statements. Fine, sequential statements which will be specifying the functionality of simply. Okay, so we can save it and synthesize it. Double click on synthesize XST. See, synthesize XST completed successfully. We can view the RTL schematic. So this is the D flip-flop. Clock, D, reset, these are the inputs. FTR, it is created. And we can show its simulation. iSIM, simulate behavioral model. So this was the comparator. Okay, fine. Now here clock. What is the clock? Force clock signal. Okay. What we will do now here for D, irrespective of D, if we will set a clock, force clock, leading edge 1, trailing edge 0. Then reset is 1, force constant, reset is 1. So irrespective of D, it should show you the output. See, your Q will be 0. Your Q will be 0. I have not given a square wave signal. Okay. Yes. Next, if force clock, then now reset is 0, force constant, reset is 0. Okay. And D is 1, force constant, D is 1. Now you can see I have taken only this 10 microsecond. We maximize it. So here if reset is 0, D is 1, your Q will be equal to 1. Fine. So with this, you can simply simulate it using uh, your software only. But if I want to implement this sequential circuits on the PLD, okay, if I want to implement the sequential circuit in the PLD, then what thing you need to remember? See, now if you have to implement down, if you download any LED blinking code, any red 051, fine. Then what if you now the frequency of your 8051 is supposed 12 megahertz. So with that 12 megahertz, if you are blinking the LEDs with the frequency of a 12 megahertz, then it will be very difficult for you to distinguish between that blinking, okay, that is on and off. So for that cases, what you generally do, yes, anyone can tell, if you simply count the clock cycles of that 12 megahertz clock source, okay, and you blink depending upon the time period of that 12 megahertz clock signal, then it's very difficult to identify or distinguish between that blinking means for how much time the led was on, for how much time led was off, right? So what was the task? Means what were you doing in order to distinguish between that particular on and off period? What thing we need to do so that we will be able to identify that on and off of the signal? Yes, anyone? Anyone? Because the frequency is very much high, its time period is very low. So for 12 megahertz, your time period will be in the terms of the microseconds. So for suppose 1 by 12 microsecond, that will be in for on, and for remaining it will be off. So you cannot identify by your eyes that blinking. So you need to reduce the frequency, right? And and that can be reduced by adding certain delay. So you simply write some for loop. So using that for loop, what you exactly do, you count the number of clock cycles, and with that you divide your clock signal. Okay, so clock frequency decreases means time period will increase. So if we have a 1 second 1 hertz of the clock signal, then our time period will be of a 1 second. And for that 0.5 second, your led will be in on state, and for zero point 0.5 led will be in off state. So that change you can identify by your eyes, so that you can see the blinking properly. So whenever you have to implement these sequential circuits, simply if it will be a counter on the PLDs or the microcontrollers which are running on the higher frequencies, then just for the observation whether our circuit is working fine or not, we need to divide those clock signals. Okay, so dividing a clock signal means exactly what we do. We count the number of clock cycles, right? So suppose if 10 clock cycles have passed, for those 10 clock cycles, I will keep my signal 0. For next 10 clock cycles, I will make that particular signal as a 1, right? So in this way, what we can do, we can reduce the frequency so that we can visualize our output properly on the development boards. So same thing can be done here in case of the sequential circuit. So you need to write a clock divider loop in addition to your code, so that you can properly visualize the blinking or the change in the state in the output of your sequential circuits. Because for sequential circuit, once you download it, it will start its working continuously. So based on the previous state, it will go into the next state. So that can be implemented using a different state machines. We generally call it as FSM, finite state machine. So your counter, it is one of the example of the FSM, that is a finite state machine. So if it is a 2-bit counter, we can have a 4 different state, and that counter will go with those finite number of states. So it will count like a 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So there are 4 finite states present for that particular counter. Okay, so this is about the VHDL coding of the combinational as well as the sequential circuits. In the for the practical sessions now, we will see this implementation of this on the PLD also. So with this, we have completed our first unit. So where we have studied the basics of the VHDL construct, different language, different data objects like signal variable, constants, then concurrent statements, sequential statements, what is the component, what are the different modeling styles, what is library, what is package, okay, how to write it, and then how to write a simple code for the combinational as well as the sequential circuits. Okay, we will stop here, and in the next lecture we will start with the second unit, where we are actually going to